Hi, I'm Eric, the security guy. Over the past few days, we've learned that the LastPass breach, disclosed in August 2022, was much worse than previously reported. Here's my take on the situation, what you need to know, and what you need to do about it. First, a bit of background. If you haven't heard of LastPass, it's one of the leading password managers. Most cybersecurity professionals, myself included, recommend using a password manager because it's the only practical way to use a unique, strong password on every single website or service. Password reuse is a serious security problem. If a site's compromised, criminals will steal passwords and use them to attempt to gain access to other systems. HaveIBeenPwned.com, a free website run by Australian security expert Troy Hunt, has collected almost 12 billion compromised accounts from 641 website breaches. There are probably many more that the criminals are keeping to themselves instead of posting them on the dark web. While Troy's site ethically uses the data to allow people to check if their credentials have been compromised, it's not difficult for criminals to find the lists of usernames and passwords on the internet and try them to log into other people's accounts. So, despite this breach, I will not be changing my recommendation to use a good password manager. And, of course, in addition to using a unique random password for every site or service, I strongly recommend using multi-factor authentication to provide an additional line of defense. In August 2022, LastPass reported that they detected unusual activity in their development environment. Based on their investigation, LastPass indicated that, I quote, "An unauthorized party gained access to portions of the LastPass development environment through a single compromised developer account and took portions of source code and some proprietary LastPass technical information," end quote. They reported that they found no evidence that any customer data or encrypted password vaults were accessed. Unfortunately, as it turns out, that was not the case. On December 22, 2022, LastPass reported that the data from the initial breach was used to further compromise their systems. The bottom line, according to LastPass, is, quote, "The threat actor was also able to copy a backup of customer vault data from the encrypted storage container, which is stored in a proprietary binary format that contains both unencrypted data, such as website URLs, as well as fully encrypted sensitive fields such as website usernames and passwords, secure notes, and form-filled data. These encrypted fields remain secured with 256-bit AES encryption and can only be decrypted with a unique encryption key derived from each user's master password using our zero-knowledge architecture. As a reminder, the master password is never known to LastPass and is not stored or maintained by LastPass," end quote. While I obviously don't have all the details, when I read that the breach of one developer's credentials ultimately led to a threat actor downloading a backup of customer vault data, it does cause me to question whether LastPass has appropriate controls in place to protect production data. But LastPass does have SOC 2 and SOC 3 reports, so we know that they've subjected themselves to external audit. My customers have asked if they should stick with LastPass or move to another password manager. That's a tough question. At this point, my advice is to wait and see how LastPass handles this breach. I'm not aware of any objective evidence that other leading password managers are more secure, and, if nothing else, LastPass should be highly motivated to ensure that this does not happen again. So, what should LastPass users do now? If you're a LastPass user, it's important to understand that a key derived from your LastPass password is used to encrypt the sensitive data in your LastPass vault. Therefore, the strength of that password determines how well your LastPass data is protected. Changing your LastPass password now will help you going forward, but unfortunately, it doesn't help protect the copy of your vault that might have been stolen from LastPass back in August. The copy is subject to an offline attack, meaning that if a threat actor has a copy of the vault and can figure out whatever password was used to protect it back in August, they will be able to gain access. To determine your risk, you'll want to consider two things. First, was your LastPass password unique? I expect that criminals are using the 12 billion or more passwords floating around the darknet for what's called a password stuffing attack. If the email address and password you used for LastPass is contained in one of those lists, there's a high risk that everything in your LastPass vault as of August 2022 has or will be compromised. The second thing to consider is how long and complex your LastPass password was, again, at the time of the compromise in August 2022. If your password was a dictionary word or a dictionary word followed by a 1 or 2 digit number, there's a very high risk of compromise. If your password was 8 characters or less, there's a high risk that your vault can be compromised through a brute force attack in hours to days. On the other hand, if your LastPass password is 12 or more characters long, statistically speaking, it should take tens of thousands of years or longer to break, making the risk very small. LastPass says if you follow their best practices, it will take millions of years given the current state of computer technology. If you used a 14-character password with a mix of uppercase, lowercase, digits, and punctuation marks, the likelihood of your LastPass vault being compromised by a brute force attack in your lifetime is, for all practical purposes, 0. Based on these factors, if your LastPass vault is at high risk of compromise, you should change your LastPass password and then start changing passwords that were saved in LastPass as soon as possible. While doing so, this is a good opportunity to ensure you use a unique, long, and preferably random password on every website you use. And while you're at it, please enable multi-factor authentication where it's available. If your risk is low, out of an abundance of caution, you might wish to change your LastPass password, as well as passwords to critical systems such as banks, email accounts, source code repositories, and social media sites. If you have multi-factor authentication in place for a site, that will provide some protection even if a criminal obtains your password. However, some services allow removing or replacing MFA credentials using a code sent via email, so protecting your email account should be a high priority. If you're not currently using MFA, make it your New Year's resolution. Thanks for watching, and please help me out by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. As always, if you have any questions or would like to suggest a topic for a future video, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. See you tomorrow.